we have two new guests today, business owners, local community leaders. Thanks for joining us, Cory and Elizabeth from the Garden. Oh, Cory, your head's a little cut off the screen there.
Oh, oops, my bad.
There we go.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, guys.
Beautiful. Thanks for having us.
And so for people who might not know about you guys or your business, tell them a little bit about yourselves.
Yeah, Cory and I have been business partners since 2018. We have several companies together. The Gift was our first venture, and is our company where we do plant-based body and wellness care. We've got some balanced hemp balanced serums. We've got rejuvenation hemp bombs, several different plant-based products under that line. And then we also have the Garden International, which is our gourmet mushroom farm. We grow oysters, shiitakes, lion's mane, all different, about 15 to 20 different varieties of culinary mushrooms, as well as some medicinal functional mushrooms as well, like reishi. And then we have one band, which is Cory's patent pending invention. And I'll let him tell you a little bit about that as well.
For sure.
About one band.
Oh, that's just a resistance training system that we just wanted to harmonize with something that I've been a part of for 30 years, being in all the fitness facilities and being a part of the companies that I've been involved in. I just wanted to make something that is user-friendly from 5 years old up to 100 years old. And it's basic, but it's complicated because of the technology behind it, but it's still resistance training, rehabilitated training. So it'll be able to harmonize within the fitness industry or the health and wellness industry. So we've been fighting for that for over 5 years. So we're coming to the end. So 1B will be worldwide at some point, going from 2023 to 2020 and beyond. So we just been blessed with that opportunity, but fighting for patents and dealing with the thoroughness of creating the exercise product that is already a lot of resistant bands in gyms. So to be authentic with certain type of adjustable locking mechanisms and things on rubber is kind of groundbreaking. So, but it's been a 5 year fight, and we're coming to the end of it. So it's a blessing. So everything with us, Martin, is why we call the truth in health and wellness, because all our products and everything that we harmonize on, from the cannabis side of the equation to the mushroom and farming and agricultural side of the equation, to the exercise and fitness and rehabilitation side. So everything we encompass is wellness, period, in the story. That's our purpose. That's our goal, is always to give back to the community in that type of respect. So from our products and body care products, wellness, our mushrooms, different types of protein, wellness, exercise and resistance band training systems, wellness. So everything is all about taking care of yourself and loving yourself, basically. That's what we all about.
Absolutely. And so I look forward to trying the 1B band at some point.
Oh yeah, you definitely get more.
Yes, absolutely. And so I know personally I've seen the mushroom box for kids. That was a great project for my little ones. They definitely enjoyed that one.
Beautiful.
Did they enjoy the food that you cooked with it?
I don't even remember if we ate it, to be honest with you. I know we grew it, but I don't remember if we ate it. And that's just, I think I actually gave it to my grandmother because she actually likes mushrooms. Yeah, so I think we grew it and then gave it to Nana.
Which kind did you grow? The blue oysters?
No, it was the pink one, if I recall.
Pink oysters.
Yeah, if I recall, it had the big pink color, so that they really like that one.
High protein. If I would have put that on one of your salads and called it chicken off the air fryer, you would have ate it and thought it was chicken.
I don't know. I mean, I don't mind mushroom. You know, I definitely have seen the benefits of psilocybin and microdosing, but I just definitely don't love the taste of it for the most part. I know you said, you know, it's how you cook it and what you use it with, but you know, maybe one day I'll come along. I'll
You'd
come
be
along.
surprised. So much mental block to it. I wasn't really even a mushroom eater before we started growing them that much. I had appreciation for the nutritional value, but I had only really tried buttons and bellas, and to me, those were kind of rubbery, you know. And then once I started, you know, learning how diverse the mushrooms are out there culinarily, I mean, they have all different textures, they cook differently, you know, the flavor is different, and just, you know, once you realize how much better that you feel having, you know, those vitamins and the unique nutrients that are in mushrooms, then you turn your mind around to it, you know.
Well, the key thing for me being in building fitness franchises around the country, when we used to talk to trainers and about, you know, building value in what we do, a lot of times when we had vegetarian and vegans, finding protein was a very hard thing for them to retain muscle. So all these years, I've been missing the boat on the mushrooms, where I'm never going to stop eating meat. So I've acquired a taste for sometimes to balance out with some vegetarian meals with prostate cancer and colon cancer, and certain things got to be checked as you're getting a little bit older. It just harmonized with me, like, yo, this makes sense, because I had an indoctrinated mindset and approach on how I've seen certain foods from what's on our shelf. And I couldn't believe that I go to the salad bar and I would always put mushrooms in my salad. But all mushrooms, from our knowledge now in education, all mushrooms must be cooked. So sometimes we miseducated, thinking we're following things that's healthy, but we're going on what somebody's telling us, or instead of us doing the proper research and educating people on a more harmonious way of dealing with different types of food, and not compromising the things that you love, but it's expanding your mindset on, you know, how you approach what you're putting in your body.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I agree with you, and you know, ever since you know, visiting you guys, I've definitely learned more about the mushrooms, and you know, had an appreciation. Like I said, I haven't learned to come around to the taste specifically, but I have been looking at some of the benefits. And you know, I was talking to um, a pediatric medical patient. I guess now would be transitioning to an adult,
Connor.
but yeah, oh, yeah, okay, exactly. I mean, you know, you're familiar. You're familiar. I wasn't trying to put him out there, but one of the things that I was talking to his mom about was the fact that, you know, psilocybin, you know, can help out with a lot of the same things that, you know, cannabis can,
Yep.
and you know, she was kind of surprised by it, but I told her, you know, I've been, of course, reading recent studies. And then just you know, just from like personal use, as you know, in DC, psilocybin's legal. You know, what I've seen, you know, for my personal self is like the hyper focus, you know, from microdosing, you know, being able to hyper focus on tasks. So it was very, very helpful in that sense. But then I know for some other people, anxiety, depression issues, you know, it really helped in that capacity. And so like, you know, a lot of times, you know, when people push, of course, legalization of cannabis and hemp, you know, I think that they should also have the conversation, you know, around psilocybin.
Absolutely.
Well, you know, if we look through our history of nature, you know, it's here to be a blessing. You know, it's us as man and woman that we can become mad scientists towards certain things, when not respecting the earth. You know, all these things are here for our benefit and for our learning. You know, however, we look at things in a mass productive type of way, how we can make more of something instead of the healing qualities. The earth we're going back to the earth. So the earth is here to help us. And at the end, we're going to see our day in it, you know. And so, but we have so much process, and we're in a microwave society nowadays where we're getting so much information, we don't know what to believe. We go with the next trend or with the next this and that. So with psilocybin, like Aaron Rodgers said something about it, then the next thing you know, on ESPN, they just think it's just the taboo way of thinking about his approach on how he enjoyed his time away from football about the psilocybin. But they looked at it as, oh, he's getting really high and this and this, and it has way more, homeopathic healing than the norm of this is a drug that's going to get you high and it's going to do this and it's going to do that. Same way they did with cannabis and demonizing cannabis that's been here for over thousands of years, but they demonized it for 50 years. And now they let the genie out the bottle and everybody doesn't know what they really want to do with it. So people are throwing money at it.
And there's so much diversity in it, just like with cannabis. Cannabis can have up to 545 different plant compounds in it. Psilocybe mushrooms, there's a lot out there, and they all have unique compounds and unique DNA, and they all interact with us a little bit differently, both from a intoxication standpoint, but also from a health standpoint. And it's really important to respect plant medicine and those who have that historical knowledge. And I just don't think a lot of times that knowledge is accessible for some people. And I think that that's where the fear comes in alongside the war on drugs as well, and the whole stigma that goes alongside with that. But definitely cannabis and psilocybe have that similar track, but they also have different roots and different racist connotations that go along with each one of them uniquely, and different jail sentencing and everything that has to do with it. But they share a similar history in that.
The bottom line, they all harmonize with the human body.
Sure. They all play a part on your endocannabinoid system. One of the things you mentioned,
absolutely. One
of the things you mentioned is the fact that it's been around for ages and ages and ages. I commonly say that weed has been around since the dinosaur ages. Just probably look at history, find out weed is a wild grown flower. Of course, nowadays we've learned how to cultivate the plant, in a more meaningful way than just, wildflower. But, there's good and bad to that, right? Like what you also see is a lot of additives that don't need to be, in the products. You see edibles that are made of distillate, that's not made of actual flower anymore. So, the thought is as you commercialize and mainstream the industry, you lose some of the craft boutique, boutiqueness, right? And, that's one of the things that, as a responsible adult use consumer, I want to make sure that, some of that remains, some of that boutiqueness remains. So
a lot of that boils down to regulations from folks like you all that are making those decisions, because oftentimes the reason that these things happen this way is because of the need for standardizations due to regulations. And the plant just does not grow, and mushrooms as well, psilocybe, they don't grow uniformly. They grow however they need to grow to be able to succeed in their environment. Where they're a product of their environment, just like we are. And were originally here and will continue to be here as, one of nature's tools to heal herself, and to make everything that's old new again, in the form of soil and healthy air, and it's not going to conform to however we want to do it. It's going to do what it needs to do, and we have to respect that.
Yes. And Cory, I'm definitely going to invite you guys out. We went to a senior center. I don't know if I told you recently. And we introduced them to CBD.
I saw that on social.
And so, like, at first it was, there were some people who were skeptical. I remember we came in, that's the weed stuff.
Yeah.
That was kind of how I started my conversation, because I think that, CBD should be a way to wean seniors who are a little more on the fence about it because of, the notion of, cannabis being bad and, it must be combustible, a product, so one, just informing them that you can consume in many different ways, many different volumes, and then the great part about being a responsible adult usage is you start learning your dosages, and you start learning, what interacts better with you. And the thought is like, as I told him, the central reason, we're all using, medication is for pain, right? And the root cause of that pain,
Relief. That's
yeah,
what it said.
relief. And the root cause of that pain would be inflammation. And there isn't much better things that could help the inflammation, than cannabis. And the thought is, like I told him, it doesn't have to be in a psychoactive way. It doesn't have to be in a way that's gonna make you feel giddy. The thought is relax, lowering inflammation, maybe help with your anxiety, maybe help you sleep better. And there was some of them by the end, they were asking questions, raising hands, we're giving out samples. The thought is like, hey, here's some topicals, here's some lip balm, these things you could try out, products you could try out. And they were excited. They were excited about it because they were.
Topicals are definitely the gateway to people with the fear, because I mean, you're not ingesting it. You're definitely not feeling any type of, psychoactive effects whatsoever.
But also you can cook, like we used to have culinary chefs cook with the cannabis, and it be in your cuisine,
Sure.
So, I use hemp oil a lot in my cooking. I take our drops, our balanced drops, and drop it in with some, with some olive oil, and then I might put some red wine vinegar and some seasonings, and throw some mushrooms and some. Even if I cook chicken or shrimp or whatever, put it in a bowl and come up with some things and make some stir fry and stuff like that with it.
Yeah, I put it in my coffee or smoothies.
Sure. I mean, but like you said, there's many ways that you could use it. For one, now you're using it for cooking. You know what I mean? Like, and so it's just really just opening their minds up to like, this isn't just weed or marijuana. It's not about getting you high, and also just sharing stories about what I had some. If you want to get high, we got that too. But
Right.
as it's about sharing stories. So sharing stories of one, when I first met somebody in the DC industry. DC has this gray market. So when I first met someone in DC, I think it was around 2016. They were a veteran, and they were explaining to me how they had body organs that were failing in the past, prior to them becoming a medical patient, and then they were saying they were on, I think, 5 to 7. Now they take 0, and the quality of their life has changed, but that really stuck with me. And the thought is, I've seen people like be able to decrease their prescriptions. Like I say, if you can decrease a couple prescriptions, of opioids, that would be huge, right? Like that would extend your life. You know what I mean? Like,
Big Pharma don't want you to do that.
yeah. I mean, I get it. Like I always say that if hemp flourished, cotton wouldn't, right? Like, and that being because cotton could be used for products like textiles. Products could be used for clothes. It could be used for supplements, like you said. And the thought is like, a lot of times it could be used, for some of the drugs that we use. There are holistic treatments. If you think about, what is it, apothecary? I always say that one incorrectly, but plant science. It's been around forever. So the thought is, huh? Yes. Yes. Exactly. Apothecary. Yes. Exactly.
Yes, it really only changed, somewhere I think in the 1930s or so, when a pharmaceutical company bought a marketing company, and then those two things started going hand in hand. And pharmaceuticals, like a big part of what their budget is marketing. And when you travel to other countries, you see they don't have commercials for pharmaceuticals like they do here. It's insane the amount of commercials that we have for pills here. But nobody really, unless you seek out the information or it's passed down from generation to generation, a lot of people don't have that same knowledge of plant medicine. They'll have that commercial for Farxiga or whatever the pill is, but they don't know how to access and feel comfortable with that plant medicine because it's foreign to some people right now.
And that's the most interesting part about what she's saying is we come from the ancient ones that come before us, from our grandmothers and our great grandmothers, and Martin, all of us didn't grow up where you could afford to go right to the hospital. So Your
Sure.
grandparents and great grandparents, when you have a house full of people sharing beds or whatever have you, not everybody's background is the same, but the ancient ones will come up with some herbs and some roots, put something together, knock a cold right on out.
You're right.
You know,
Right.
Vicks couldn't break that up, you know. But that herbal something that smelled bad when she rubbed it on your chest and wrapped you up, that's broke the fever. The earth is here to harmonize with us. We choose to do external things and build consumer products to only do certain things for relief. But when they give you something, it takes away from something else. So you're never really on balance.
Side effects.
You're always in chaos. Oh, this could cause this could cause that. Don't take this and said with your doctor, boo, 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 boo. So when you're dealing with the cannabis industry or anything of wellness, from farming and agriculture to whatever, the harmony is in the earth, in the truth of the products. You don't have to do, like you said, distillates. We do full whole plant. We keep the truth in everything that we do. That's what we're going to deliver, and that's our purpose in the world. So we thankful that you had us to come on here and we discussing these type of issues right here. So
no, of course. I mean, and just to segue, change gears. How do you see this business being involved in the local community? I know that you have a mission to care for the kids and the community. So how do you see this business giving back, to the community?
Well, I'm a truth teller. I'm different from Liz. Liz and I are different on that. She's got a lot of hope for this community, for a lot of communities. Me, I think we need new blood like yourself and Mr. Branson and the youngest, dudes that are coming into the community to be a breath of fresh air and come with a brand new, so to speak, look at things. Sometimes when we have indoctrinated thinking, we have indoctrinated people that have been in positions when these laws were in effect. Now the laws are evolving and changing a little bit. So sometimes we need guys like yourself to get behind us a little bit more where we should be. It's no reason the city of Law should not have a greenhouse, an urban greenhouse in this community. We've already proposed these type of things behind the doors quietly. We want to help train and help it make sure that it's managed properly because we don't want it to go away. We want people to look at this type of culture as far as cannabis and farming, as far as with food, what we do with mushroom growing and anything else. We want to be able to let them understand some of the things that we just started to understand after 25 years. I'm 50. So I've been indoctrinated in the way of thinking too, that's been opened up to me. And I think you and the council members that are on the board and the breath of fresh air that we're starting to see, I think we can be very aggressive in our approach on how we can bring these type of harmonious things going into the future, step by step, brick by brick. Nothing's going to happen overnight, but at the end of the day, these strangleholds are already starting to be broken,
Agreed.
So
I appreciate it.
Go ahead.
We definitely
what do you got?
What's that?
No, I said, what do you got? What do you got to add?
We definitely want to be, informative for the community. First of all, on educating, about cannabis and hemp and everything from the legalities of it to, the physical aspects of it and the, mental and spiritual aspects of it as well. And the same with the mushrooms and nutrition. But, we're also heavily involved with agriculture. We get out to the farmers markets pretty often to network with folks, and we have our products at farmers markets. We work with the Urban Farm Work Group for Anne Arundel and Prince George's County. I just joined the Food Equity Council to serve on the council there. So yeah, we definitely, Cory and I bring some unique backgrounds. We both come from corporate backgrounds, myself from accounting and finance, and Cory from corporate wellness, opening gyms and franchising. So, I have a little bit of experience with things like projections and, income, monetizing income streams and things like that. So we'd like to see more people, more young people, particularly, and those maybe changing jobs, going into farming, growing food, bringing technology and STEM, and pairing that with, the source of our food, bringing the community really closer to the source of their food and wellness and nutrition, herbalism. We just want to bring people closer in our community into that process so they can not only have an appreciation for it and what they're putting into their bodies, but also to create opportunities for businesses. People can, create their own brand of salsas if they wanted to from their garden. And they should have some way to understand what that looks like and dream and follow their dreams. And the more that people do that and those dreams are towards health, the better off we're all going to be.
We just about bottom line. We about being life changers. We like to help people change their lives, so you can treat each other a little bit better from time to time. A lot of times, you treat people the way you feel. So at the end of the day, and when you lack of knowledge, sometimes that can lead to bitterness and certain things in life. But when you get around certain things that can help you exercise the right and the left side of your brain, you start to get a little bit more balance, and you'll start having a little bit more focus. You'll start loving yourself a little bit more. You'll start loving to see what you're growing a little bit more. Every time I see one of these mushrooms or something that we're growing, it's like I got to talk to it. It's like it's real harmonious, you know what I mean? So, and I come from these streets. I come from an urban background. So how did I get here? You know what I mean? So it's if I got it, somebody else I definitely know can do it. You know what I mean? So.
And people are really looking to reconnect with nature right now, probably more than ever, because I think we've become so disconnected that I think people are looking for these opportunities.
In the pandemic, the two grocery stores right here in the city of Law ran out of all produce. That really alarmed me. They ran out of produce, being shipped 1,500 miles away. We've got more farmers that could have handled all that. But we got food, we got to get inspected. It's a pandemic. Things was behind. They had to ration out what they was going to put on the shelves.
Yeah.
That right there is scary.
You're right. We don't need shortages like that, especially of the good food, right? Like
we got 2% of the population that's growing food for the rest of the population. And not to mention our imports and exports, more is being imported than ever before.
Right.
So we really have to look at that and create. And the USDA is coming around, and they're seeing that, and they're implementing some food transformation. And there's going to be a lot more opportunities out there for people who want to get involved.
Maryland food should be controlled by Maryland food. The biggest thing in the state of Maryland, we've been a lot of different states to visit farms. Most farmers don't know how to market themselves,
or don't have the time,
so they lose more crops than they sell. But
wow. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, they make 15 to 25 cents on the dollar for most produce. A lot. The suicide. I just heard the suicide rate for farmers has gone up 40% in the last 10 years.
And then you got to look at. They only can get part-time help. And then the guys that they got on the farm, or the young ladies they got on the farm, got to take another job here and there to harmonize and live in the state of Maryland. So they get some help, but they can't always keep the help. But we don't market. They don't know how to market. They don't know how to do certain things. They just farm traditional, old school way of farming. But this is a new day. We have a lot of people under 35, 40 that are looking to harmonize with farming. So, it's engineering out there, it's hydroponics out there. It's a lot of different things that we're starting to expand on and find out about how to have an irrigation system. So it's a lot of opportunities out here for these kids. I just think you can just play sports or do this and do that. Farming is good,
Yes.
too, so yeah.
Well, just on that note, I'll segue on this, and I know we've had such a great convo. I went to Southern Maryland College of I think it's St. Mary's College of Southern Maryland, and they have a program with the local public schools where I forget what the organization is called, but it's a Maryland-based organization. He does a lot of mutual aid. He's a farmer, and basically he goes to the school, he picks out, or they give him like troubled youth, and then they would volunteer time at the on the college to farm. And so a lot of them would talk about how their therapeutic farming was, but also they would talk about how you said, and seeing something succeed, from a seedling to that was evolution in itself for them. Like they grew in that experience. So yeah, and I commonly say that we need to, of course, have more agricultural programs in our high schools, especially given that, hemp and cannabis is going to be a plant that has a biggest cash crop now, but is going to be bigger continuing to the future, right? So all of our kids don't want to become rappers or basketball players. Some of them might want to work on cannabis farms and hemp farms and, change the way we look at things.
And what we also want to do, we want to make them their own boss. So, our goal is to have a farming franchise that expands all over the globe.
Sure.
That's where we're at. We might be here in Beltsville, Maryland, Laurel, but at the end of the day, we want to be able to keep harmonizing and learning so we can expand and spread this all around the world.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. I'm here to share that sentiment. And before you guys leave, I wanted to ask you a couple quick questions. This is sort of like a rapid round, right? So, I mean, since we have both of you, could give a combined answer or your separate answer. Who's your favorite author and why?
Personally, lately I'm loving anything from Paul Stamets because he just really harmonizes with nature, and he's really been he's taken so much testing of different psilocybin and different mushrooms, and he's given some unique experiences. So I'm liking him a lot lately.
I'm Napoleon Hill. I'm the business side of things.
Napoleon Hill, awesome.
Yeah, I'm about recognizing spiritual and harmonic awareness, really practicing, that type of harmony and waterizing myself as far as not being in a hypnotic rhythm and always being about learning. So Napoleon Hill, it was given to me back when I was a young pup in the fitness game with Gold's Gym, and that him and Andrew Carnegie, way before my time, it still reigns true supreme today. So.
Absolutely. A little simpler question: Pepsi or Coke?
Neither. Water.
What?
Neither.
Water.
What did he say?
He said Pepsi or Coke.
Ginger ale.
Hey, absolutely. I could go for a good cup of ginger ale.
A little ginger ale.
Yes. Well, actual ginger in there. Real ginger.
Yeah. Canada Dry is the closest we will get.
Exactly. And so my last question is favorite superhero and why?
Superwoman for me.
Superwoman, okay.
Or Wonder Woman, actually. Wonder Woman.
Okay, two very different people for sure.
There they are. Yeah, Superwoman, Wonder Woman, they're totally different.
And, what do you have? One? You got one or
who, me?
Yeah.
Mine is definitely Superman.
Superman, okay, for sure. Classic. Superman is a classic of classic superheroes. You can't go wrong.
Yeah, I was already born priceless. So, You know, you know. So I should always feel priceless. You should too. Everybody should. So that's our goal. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you, and so for people who don't know how to get connected with you, tell them how to stay connected with you.
So on Instagram, the garden is the Garden of Health. The gift is Completely Gifted, and then our website for the garden is thegarden.farm, and for the gift is thegiftwellness.com.
Is that online?
Yeah.
Oh, can we show this poster right here? Also, about our learning center and things that we want to bring here to PG County.
Yes, the Mushroom Learning Center.
Yeah. So, but also
this is on our website, thegarden.farm.
But also the garden learning center can be microgreens, strawberries. It could be whatever we decide on, whatever farm and whatever we want to do. But mushrooms is what we're doing right now. But we'll be able to harmonize with this type of learning center and break it down to whatever it is that we decide we will want to grow.
Well, we'll keep me, up to date, because I definitely love what you guys are doing for the community, for the kids, pushing health and wellness, and we definitely need that moving forward, right? Because people are not eating healthy, people are lazy, so we need to encourage them to not be lazy, and you are what you eat.
Greenhouses on public spaces.
Yeah,
and community gardens. We need more of that.
We definitely need that in the city of Law. I think we could I guarantee you, when we start certain things like that, I want to see the same council members come back the following year and say, well, how's crime done in our city? Well, has this number went down? Has that number went down? Because we have more community involvement, so that's what I'm praying upon. Why congratulations on you being newly elected and all you gentlemen. That's what we are praying upon, that we move law in throughout PG County and expanding into other counties, that we can harmonize and really make a real difference and be important, so we don't want to be sitting here around talking about it, believe that. So we want to be really doing what we need to be doing.
I definitely believe you guys are people of action, and I'm happy I met you guys. I appreciate it, and I'm definitely going to continue to represent at the city level. So
we thank Jonna for introducing this to you.
Absolutely.
So
oh yeah, the community. That's the community mayor right there.
That's what I'm saying. So
the community
we definitely appreciate her, and we appreciate you, and we know it takes time, but we got to start stacking some bricks here. We really got to start stacking some bricks here.
And we thank you for what you do for Laurel and the community.
Yeah, no doubt.
For sure. And I definitely hope to have you guys back in November after legalization passes on the ballot, because I know that'll be a big change, business wise. Like I'm sure there'll be a lot more possibilities open up. So I definitely look forward to having you guys back.
Look forward to it. Thanks so much.
Hey, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay, no problem. I'll see you guys soon. Thanks again.
Have a blessed day.
Yes. Hey, we have a new guest here today. Like always, this is People Over Politics, and we have a guest joining us. Very excited about this guest today. Torie, thank you for joining us.
Sherry, thank you for having me.
Yes. Ashay, yes. Basically, for people who don't know you, right? Give them a quick Reader's Digest version of who you are and what you do.
I like to say I'm a mom first, so that's why I'm an advocate. I'm a product of Reaganomics. I was born in Washington, D.C., so the things that were not picked up or diagnosed in me, I made sure as a mom that I advocated for my children with their upbringing. From there, I started to look into other things as legislation and voting and just, yes to certain things that we can do now. I became an advocate for cannabis. by way of like certain different states like Colorado first because I thought about moving there. Shout out to my friend who moved there. So it's just one of those things. Once that happened, um, I was invited to be a cannabis consultant in the industry because my mom is a second generation grower. So let me explain the weed that I love, people. Again, again, when we talk about Reaganomics, I love my parents' story because they were never ashamed. And they were growers. They were guerrilla growers on the East Coast, only had one good harvest.
Yeah, but I said, what is a guerrilla grower? I'm not even familiar with that one.
So the term guerrilla grower to us, more so on the East Coast, are the farmers, the outdoor farmers, right? So we didn't really have a huge concept or understanding. I don't think anyone did back in the 80s, right? Of what indoor grow looked like. So it's just one of those things. But because the West Coast picked up, shout out to them, the way they picked up with technology to show us different things, the East Coast was still behind because there were different types of seasons. Some people had 3 harvests on the West Coast. On the East Coast, you only had 1. You know what I'm saying? So that's how you made friends with the East Coast and the West Coast. It was never a real rivalry when it came to cannabis, right? So, once I got older, and I wanted to look into it, I traveled, and then I came back home to DC, and I just waited, and then I forgot that we were in a state, and nothing really happened for us. So then I went back into traveling by way of being a cannabis consultant and just showing startup businesses, how to ask for certain things, no matter what your business is, especially if you're Black. Even if you decide to sell out your business, I walk you through the whole point because I want you to know what your equity looks like. And I think that was one of the things that was never talked about in Colorado or in California. And because I'm still active, just as who I am as a smoker and a grower for my personal use, I still use my voice when people reach out to me. But I have not been a consultant in the cannabis industry since I started my NPO, National Expungement Works, formerly known as National Expungement Week. And that was only because I didn't want to keep letting people down. We talk about this thing called social equity, but we really don't see it, right? And it almost looks like the civil rights movement. You're like, is it going to take 7 years once we start signing stuff?
Of course.
And it was just like one of those things. So, it was a moment. I believe there was like a panel that I was at in like New York or something like that. And they were like, yeah, cannabis consultant and can you give, some information to, all the people out here? And I was like, first of all, this is New York City. I don't believe they can give out that many licenses. We're going to open them up at. Let's talk let's talk branding. You have to talk that. Because they're coming for you because we're the culture. That's why they're giving you all these licenses. So I'm that type of consultant. And I think the industry didn't like that. And that was okay. Because it wasn't every level of the industry. The levels that loved it wanted to employ me, but I didn't want to be an employee, if that makes any sense.
Of course. I mean, you want to move to the beat of your own drum, and at the end of the day, you want to be able to say what you got to say. I
want them to tell me that inclusion wasn't a real thing, because it didn't exist. So they put me in this position to tell me to create something, and then they tell me no. And I was like, well, that's crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like,
no, that's just called for show. And I see it all the times in politics. Because in politics, we'll do things and say we did it, just to say we did it, right? But then when you look at the impact of it, you'd be like, well, this just seems like a waste of money, right? But then that's just how politics works, right? Like you can't solve all the problems, otherwise there's not going to be problems for you to work on or solve, right? So that's kind of the unfortunate reality that I've realized about politics and government and policy, that there's always going to be problems. There's always going to be people preventing you from doing what you would like to do, but you have to create new ways. as you said. And one of the things that I think about is we look at Maryland. Maryland, we're going to talk about adult use. It's going to be on the ballot. And, I have a good friend, the state delegate, Delegate Gabriel Acevedo. You may have heard of him, maybe not, but he is one of the biggest cannabis, advocates, in Maryland. And, his biggest thing is equity, right? So like even the referendum bill that went forward, that and the companion bill, they had a lot of questions on if it's going to be equitable and are we going to make this bill, at least from a policy framework, equitable in the first place, or are we going to try to pass it and then say we're going to work it out, later? Because that's what a lot of times happens. So, there's certain advocates like Delegate Acevedo who would, vote against a bill or try to amend the bill so heavily, and he'll be on the fence with a lot of other Democrats just because the Democrats are like, well, you can't, what did they say? Basically, like you can't mess up progress or something like don't spoil like I forgot what this terminology of the saying is, but it's at the tip of my tongue. It's basically to the extent of like if we can make a little progress, don't fault that little progress. But the way that Gabriel looks at it is the question he asks is, what does equity look like? If you looked at the Maryland market and you envisioned it, what would equity look like? And it still have difficulty, people, legislators coming up with what equity looks like.
Shay, I normally hear legislators, well, this was, again, something else I used to do, lobby, and this was way before COVID now, since this endemic, so I have not gone back. But they used to say it's a start. So that used to be like short, sweet, and to the point. Like when they got to it at the Hill and they would introduce something, and even if you wanted to talk about it from a person that once said, you know what, I know I gave this testimony, I'm still here. I just like to say, can we don't forget, because that is me. And then they normally look at that person and say, listen, if we can get this through, this is a start. My job is to say, and so is the civil rights movement.
That's true. That's true. I mean, the thought is a lot of times it just moves slow. Like policy moves slow. Maryland's taking its own time. We've been looking at adult use for several years. We've had a medical program for several years. To be honest with you, we could have passed it as a state legislature, but it was taking so long, and we've left it up to the voters, right? But the thought is like things just take forever, right? Because they're gonna say we need a study group, we need a work session. No, we've studied this long enough. We don't need another work session. We don't need another study group. The people have already said 60 to 70% of people said they want, adult use, right? So let's figure out how to get there. We've known that for a long time. We've known since before time that cannabis had some benefits. We've known, especially since the 1944 LaGuardia report, that it had scientific benefits. But the thought is like still to this day is Schedule 1. Still to this day is taboo. I introduced CBD to a group of seniors, and I was kind of shocked because the thought is like at first coming in that's the weed stuff, but leaving out they're like questions, right? Because all they know is the opioids that they've been prescribed for years and years, and so like they love learning about different options.
It's a stigma, we're erasing the stigma. It's going to be forever. We're still doing it. I would play devil's advocate to the come on. I'm not calling it forcefulness of like the come on already.
Yeah.
That perspective is not that of equity, right?
I agree.
So to me, that perspective, and I'm not mad, would be the perspective of politicians and MSOs, right? Because technically speaking, how many of the social equity applicants would really, really, really be ready, right? And I only ask that because the last time I assisted someone, I think it was like 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago. I think you had to have at least 2.3 million in assets. So when you talk about certain things, it's just having social equity at the table to begin with, right?
Sure.
From beginning to end. When you do that, you also allow a more privileged voice, like the MSOs, to come in and say, okay, well, now that we heard you out and we're writing all these things down, let's talk taxes. We're still equity. So I feel as though we would have a chance to talk about where taxes could go. Because I'm also an entrepreneur at this table. So if you're taxing me, let me have this conversation as well. And I think a lot of times in different states, we don't do that. We wait until we draft and then we tell social equity is good because it has the word social equity in it.
Yes. Well, I agree with you 100%. And I think that in my previous conversations, I've said that I think that social equity applicants, there should be a space for them to make sure that they are able to get approved for licenses, but there should be also like an incubator that would help them, because the thought is like some of these people in the legacy industry might have all the know-how and knowledge of the plant and the evolution of the plant, but might not have the business acumen to be, to compete with an MSO or to grow, right? So they have that, like, one, they had the opportunity to fail because they were able to apply, they were able to get approved, but they also have the support systems for the incubators, or, I know in some capacity, sometimes some of the better MSOs, right, or the most socially conscious MSOs try to do like a training program or recommend a training program or something to that extent, like even if it was from a cultivation aspect. Where they were like to help them oversee until 6 months, a year, until they properly learned how to grow. So I think that they shouldn't just be left. They shouldn't just be given money and left alone. They should also have like resources to help them grow and develop.
I agree 101%. But the reason why I quit consulting was for my NPO, because no one ever wants to talk about the 48,000 barriers. You have a record.
You're right.
Why you talk about federal, right? Why you talk about federal legalization. So you have to look at these things when you say the word social equity, and then how you choose to pick who's an applicant. It says a lot, because then sometimes I've noticed in the course of years, and again, I quit the cannabis industry 4.5, 5 years ago. And it's because, I just can't lie. You know what I'm saying? Because if I lie, like, we're not going to go anywhere. So I'd rather just, stay at the table, keep writing, and figure out what are the next steps. I'm that person. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want to talk. I just want to like write it out, and then let's see if we can apply this process, right? And I think a lot of times when no one else has that free thinking mindset of let's try it that way, then they're left to be the social equity applicant.
Okay, I agree.
And what I'm saying is, by that, by no means is there a wrong answer. However, when you create a policy, a piece of paper that says what this applicant should look like,
sure,
you have to kind of stick to that, right? So when you don't stick to that part, and we start to question, well, what makes this, whatever owner, whether it's a dispensary, cultivation center, it doesn't matter. What makes them the social equity applicant, and what stopped me? So a lot of times when we talk about amnesty, we do know that that's credit. We do know that that's education, right? But we really never talk about the 48,000 barriers. And I hold myself at fault. Even when I created you know what I'm saying, knew for my own ways, for my own collective that put in $15,000 in, 2013 to try to get a license in DC. And then we all got plucked off one by one. And I'm going to tell you, Martin, I thought I had privilege. I'm a woman, I'm a mom, I'm brown paper bag, I passed it.
Yeah. You had a lot of minorities going for you.
I thought I had it. You know what I'm saying? But there were just other things. And so when I started to talk more about, the expungement process that DC doesn't even have, we only have sealing. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I challenged myself with that word, whether it was a day or a week, I challenged myself because I knew that I always had to come back and look my family and my friends in the face. Right. So in going that way and that route, I had to acknowledge, damn, it ain't just cannabis either. You know what I'm saying? So it was like I was getting all this support like the first year from like, the cannabis industry everywhere. Yeah, we're going to do like cannabis only convictions. And I was like, I don't think that's going to work. And they were like, wow. I was like, because I don't even have no cannabis charge. And they told me no. Like, listen, I know you can judge with the eyes. I get it. But what I'm telling you is, 48,000 barriers is 48,000 barriers, no matter what it's on. And I think the cannabis industry didn't see that part when it came to, I can get you a job. You understand what I'm saying?
Greetings and salutations, all my friends out there in internet land. I am William Honolulu Jr., and I have the privilege of being the host of the Black USA News Morning Show. The Black USA News Morning Show is currently recruiting guests for an upcoming series on single parents and co-parenting. We find that there's a lot of misinformation and a lot of isolation in the narrative about single parents. And we want to make sure that we keep this platform available to tell the true story, our people's story. The topics that we will be covering range from health, wellness, the type of support, how important your social support system is, romance, and things of that nature. If you're interested in becoming a guest, you can check the link in the description. You can email us at info@grindinggang.com, or you can visit this link. Thank you so much and have an awesome day.
So a question I have is, you're a canna mom, you're an advocate, you're a nonprofit executive. So I would ask, what is your end game in the industry?
What it always was in the beginning, I just want to, sell my weed and pay taxes.
Sell my weed, and I'm writing that down, taking notes, and pay taxes. I commonly say the only thing you're promised is to pay taxes and die. So,
right.
Not
unless you're a social equity applicant.
You said what?
Not unless you're a social equity applicant.
So a lot of the social equity applicants, they have lower taxes or forego taxes in a lot of these places.
Well, I can't speak for all. I can only speak for myself as a social equity applicant. When I think you said that we identify as legacy.
Yeah.
So here in DC, we identify as the traditional market.
Traditional market. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but same terminology.
Yeah, same terminology. Yeah. I mean, listen, because of the policy, and everything that we're seeing on TV, everybody's like, oh, okay, name change, switch. So, but sure. That's how politics work, right? So, sure. We're trying to see how this word works out, in Michigan. They've been, using this word for about 1.5 years now. So, it's almost like, again, as a lobbyist, like you're just poll watching and things like that. You know what I'm saying? You just want to see what happens because you want to grab that draft, bring it, or template, bring it to your state.
Of course.
And you want to replace some things.
Of course. I mean, and, we talked a lot about equity, and I think that there's equity in the business side of it, but a lot of times I like to mention from the criminal, legal, reparative, restorative justice side, right? So, we need to make sure, and I'll say it as many times as we need to. We need to make sure that we bring our brothers and sisters home who are, in jail or prison on cannabis related convictions, but also people who have been convicted in the past. Those charges need to be automatically expunged or vacation of stays like they never happened. The thought is, we have people 30, 40 years ago who still have a record for a doobie or a joint. And just this a few months ago, we had someone who was convicted. I don't know if you've heard of the case of Jonathan Wall. I definitely did an interview earlier on with his mom, Mitzi Wall, where he was facing basically a RICO charges for conspiracy to distribute cannabis across state lines, and several different kilos he was conspired. But it was an informant based case, and as we said, it was related to cannabis and in a state of which is probably going to pass on the ballot next year.
Well,
but it's still federally legal.
That's key. That's key. That's the key that allows me to continue to play devil advocate on this with you, right? So if you have these organizations that are all cannabis based and cannabis bound, and they're saying cannabis only convictions, and you're interviewing someone with RICO, right? And this isn't, you know what I'm saying? It's just one of those things. It would off the break make me say, I'm a patient. I'm already a patient. So I probably didn't even get arrested for my weed, but you're trying to tell me that I am. I'm getting arrested probably because I don't want to work at McDonald's for like $5.25 an hour. And I probably want to sell this motherfucking, I probably want to.
I understand. I get you. I understand.
You know what I'm saying? So there's other ways that I have to be an entrepreneur in order for me to feed my habit, because no one is really teaching me about microdosing, about harm reduction of this thing that isn't even called medicine yet. You know what I'm saying? When we talk about past cases, which I don't like to call as cases, past records. So and it's just a feeling, you know what I'm saying, that leads me to play that devil's advocate to allow or to challenge the cannabis industry to think that way, because I promise you, it's common sense to the courts and they find other ways. You know what I'm saying? So to just be like, it's a cannabis this, it's never that when you're Black. I don't care what you say.
You said it's never that what when you're Black?
It's never just a cannabis charge when you're Black.
Oh, yeah.
I got pulled over first. I know you lying.
Yeah. No, I mean, hey, trust and believe. Like, driving while Black or having cannabis while Black. Yeah. No, it's not the same as having cannabis while white. And it never was.
So sometimes it's okay to partner and rally with your ally, but there are times when we have to be realistic in our conversation with our allies. Hey, don't stop there, because there's other charges, at least to me. So don't stop there. And I don't mind talking them out, because the cannabis industry, and I'm a part of this, stole the word equity. They stole social equity. Social equity is not created by the cannabis industry, but the only industry that uses it and rates it the most is the cannabis industry.
Well, given that's because it's the hyper commercialized market right now, right? So a lot of them are using that as a buzzword. It doesn't necessarily have value, but it's a buzzword and it's sexy. And if I check this box, we're good. So I'm being critical, but I'm also being what did they say? Like a nihilist. I'm being a nihilist of the situation, because I realize that the system is flawed, and I'm calling it out, but I guess in my own way.
I mean, the best way to me that you did it, I'm not in Maryland. I mean, I'm close, but that rep that you said to me, like, one thing about politics, they're going to stay employed. So why not put the best one in there all the time?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So it goes back to that candidate. You know what I'm saying? Because they're doing better. You know what I'm saying? And when they not, you vote again.
Of course.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and you know, just for me, I'm a little bit of like I would call myself a people-oriented politician, right? Like I'm looking at policies that change lives, but I'm also thinking about like being a visionary and revolutionary, right? Because like in politics, a lot of people are scared to do anything monumental. And you know, I don't think that should be the case. You know, like I ask whoever's the next governor and anything, are you going to take it a step further and allow further currently convicted prisoners the right to vote? You know, in a couple of New England states, they have the right to vote, and you can't explain to me why their right to vote was taken away in the first place. You know, like, and so like, but that's a radical idea, saying that like, you know, and asking them this question, you know, should they have the right to vote? Because the truth of the matter is, they should because um, they're counted on the census. So whatever area, whatever prison they're in, they're receiving money for that body. But you know, that person doesn't have a voice on their local representation. But that's by design, because they don't want to expand the vote. They don't want more people to have to, you know, cater to, and you know, things like that. They don't want to have more people to be aware of things that are going on. You know, if you have an awakened mass, you know, you have a problem.
Listen, I rarely say this. I normally say some other words around this. I would have hope, right?
You said what?
I would have hope. I would have hope. I would have this. I would have this hope that, you know, one day I'm a vote locally. Hear me out.
Yes, exactly. You gonna have it exactly. Yes.
And I'm gonna vote so locally that I'm gonna know the person that I voted for, because that's how easy it's always been here in DC, right? So it's like with us, yeah, you couldn't tell me. You couldn't tell me when I was born in the 80s that Eleanor Holmes Norton wasn't still going to be here, because I knew she was. She said it. They was like, you can't get rid of her. You know, so we just knew these things in DC. You know, we would see them on their bikes.
She's been around that long? Dang, I didn't even think about it.
Actually, you know, people weren't allowed to vote in DC. That didn't become one of those things that were real into the 70s. For real. And she was the first. You know what I'm saying? It was a beautiful thing. And I remember her being on like the late night shows and everything. I'm like, man, you know what I'm saying? But now I'm looking at the things that's going on in DC, and I'm like, man, I'd be glad when you retire, because I don't want to vote you out. I love you. So you know, it'd be like one of those things, right?
Huh.
So
no, you learn something new every day. I didn't know, you know, about the voting since the 70s. I didn't know she had been in there that long, because I actually worked on a few DC races.
You think it's
DC
just
politics.
white people?
Huh?
You think it's just white people?
No, I definitely don't think it's just white people. There's some old black people who've been there forever as well. Trust and believe.
Sure.
But like you said, politics is local, and all roads lead home. And you know, one thing that I realized in DC is a lot of them did know, you know, the people that were running. You know, even if it wasn't, you know, super close, you know, they had some type of relationship, or they knew a family member or a cousin or a friend, you know, or he dated, you know, so and so. But the thought is, it's like it was super small, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So
and you just build it up, like you get that support, and then they keep voting, and then people see that, and that's freedom, and that's heaven, and that's peace, and that's balance. You can probably turn a state blue, can't you, Stacey?
Exactly. We hoping for things like that, and you know, I'm hoping to get people in Maryland out to the ballot box, right? Because we got to make sure that we get people like, you know, people like Wes Moore, you know, would be only but the second black Democrat in modern history, you know, third ever, you know. So we need to get people like that. But the thought is like, as I tell people, come out to the ballot box, but also pay attention in January when we're writing these laws around all the things that we're discussing, you know, around transportation, around cannabis, around criminalization. All of these things are going to be decided in the 90 days that happen from January to April, you know, so definitely stay tuned. And of course, one of the things that I wanted to ask you before I went into the rapid round was you talked about the second generation of growers, right? What do you think is the best method of growing?
Outdoors.
I know it's right, because what are you growing for? Well, you know,
I mean, it's how it started. How would you have known? So
you
you
said, how would
do
you have known? Oh, outdoor.
thanks.
You like sun grown, outdoor sun grown.
I mean, to me, I'm not big on a lot of artificial
Sure,
pesticides.
organic. Yeah.
PGVs, they're good and bad because they're artificial and they're natural. You know what I'm saying? So
Which ones?
when you think about some of the newts that are in, like, you know, I probably should name companies, that would be messed up. But I do have a company though that I do use if I go indoors. Like, I really, really love this company. They're all organic. So I mean, because you do look for things like that, or they try to be like, you know, at least 90% organic, right? Because those type of things are very, very important. But you just can't control it. You know, testing is so real that I think like like guerrilla growers, like growers like me that like really love medicine, will never stop, right? Because we're scared of regulation and how it may put us in this bind to medicate on something that wasn't properly tested, or flushed, or grown right. And it triggers bipolar, it triggers schizophrenia, it triggers these type of things because it's a chemical imbalance to what we've already been exposed to that may put us on the spectrum. So when you think about lead, when you think about inhaling certain things, whether it's, you know, gas pollution, or, you know, if you experience someone, let's be honest here, in the 80s in certain cities, you don't know the smell, you know, of crack if you never cooked it, you know? So it's in you. All these things are in your body. You know, the cannabis industry has a bigger responsibility than they know, which is bigger than any marketing ploy that they have, if they just create the real awareness for the people that they consider social equity applicants. Because a lot of us don't know why we're even fighting to be in this industry when we still see this as a stigma and not medicine.
Okay. Hey, you're right. I agree with that. I agree with that wholeheartedly. And you know, I had a couple rapid questions for you. My first question is, best U.S. flower by state.
Best U.S. flower?
Yeah, I would have said Colorado, right? From my experience in travels. My friend said Maine.
Oh, I was about to say, the U.S. and Canada, white lands, no have land races. I was about to say that's India, that's Africa, that's even Mexico. You know, when they brought us over here. But if you're saying that, I would definitely still go with. I would still go with Cali. I would go with Cali. I would go.
Cali. Okay.
Honestly, I would go with Portland. I would go. I'm on the West Coast with it because I see the harvest. You know what I'm saying? I see the abundance. You know what I'm saying? Like YouTube shows you can see what people can grow with, you know, 16 plants.
Of course.
Outside. You know what I'm saying? But look at the trees over there. So, you know, there's beauty.
Of course. You do have the abundance. And I know that the reason he loves Maine is because I guess the climate and the micro risings in the ground. But they did have some very clean organic stuff. That's all I will say. And so favorite strain.
Favorite strain. My favorite strain would probably be a mix that someone made one time. And it like someone bred it.
Okay, so potluck. I got you.
But I can definitely tell you it was about 80% sativa, about 20% like indica, and that indica was like the right indica. It was Northern Lights, right? So it like set it off just right to anything else that was going to have me, you know, still be able to be operating and functioning.
So it's definitely a sativa leaning hybrid. Okay. And the last question I would ask you is favorite consumption method.
I'm a smoke. It's
Understood.
it's definitely
Is
in
it?
a leaf. It's in a naturally cured leaf. Yes.
Oh, okay. I was gonna ask sheets and funnel, but you said no, naturally cured leaf. I got you. I got you. I got you. Well, I appreciate it, and tell people how they can stay connected with you. Of course, we look forward to seeing you soon at the expungement clinic in October. So definitely tell people otherwise how they can stay connected with you.
Yes, stay in contact with me right now for this month because it is our week of action and awareness, which is the 18th through the 25th. You can go to www.newxnow.org, or you can go to Expungement Works at Instagram, or you can just, you know, shoot me an email. You know, I'm over there. I'm at Torie at newxnow.org. And if I'm delayed, you know, there's multiple reasons, but don't charge it to my heart.
Absolutely. You know, time slows when you're having fun. But I appreciate you, Torie. Definitely look forward to connecting with you, and you know, continue doing the great work.
All right, you guys be easy.
Yes, for sure. Peace. That was this week's episode. We had 2 new guests, so stay tuned. See you next week.